What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. And today, there's 4 weeks left in the college football season. Today is Wednesday. The playoff rankings just came out yesterday. Again, there are some things that people are going to disagree on with those rankings. But today, I am back for you guys, giving you my updated playoff predictions and New Year's Six bowl game predictions. Again, I do these every Wednesday, the day after the playoff poll comes out. So if you guys enjoy, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you're brand new. You want to help support the channel. Hey, again, you can like, subscribe, share, comment, do anything like that. Really does help me out. Again, trying to get the channel as big as possible over these next couple of years here. College football is one of my passions. I love it. So let's go ahead and dive into some predictions. Not a lot changed last week because although there were some upsets, there were some teams that lost. Wake Forest lost, Auburn lost, right? Games like that. But there weren't really a whole lot of big changes this week because, well, no one really proved that they're better than anyone this week, right? Ohio State played not great offensively, especially in the red zone against Nebraska. Oklahoma, well, hey, they had a bye week. Cincinnati continues to struggle through wins. Alabama struggled with LSU. Oregon at times struggled with Washington, but still got the win, right? So there was no one that really came out this week and proved that they're unequivocally better than teams that are ahead of them in the rankings. And for that reason, my playoff field remains unchanged. The only thing I've changed is a little bit of the graphics. Now, you see there, I do have the records for the playoff teams on screen, which is something I wanted to do last week, but I didn't. I don't know why, but yep, you see 3 of the 4 undefeated teams left here on the screen, and as of right now, the 3 of those 4 are in the playoffs for me. UTSA, I don't see any path to the playoffs for them. Strength of schedule is just something that's not in their favor. So I don't see a way that UTSA makes the playoff. Obviously, I don't think anyone in the nation does. But as for the 4 teams here, yeah, all of them can absolutely get into the playoff. It's the same field that I had last week because, again, no one really proved that they should be ahead or below anyone in my initial ranking. So I think the way it's going to shape out is Georgia's going to be at number 1. Of course, that's the obvious, easy one. Yes, that does mean I think that they're going to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game as of right now. But Bama also looked really vulnerable against a pretty mediocre LSU team. And thus, Georgia is the only team from the SEC in the playoffs. Again, that's just what I'm thinking right now. Opinions can change. I know that. Ohio State here at number 2. Yes, this Ohio State team I still think is the best team in the Big Ten. Michigan State, of course, just lost to Purdue. And then Michigan has shown vulnerabilities at times, but I believe that Ohio State right now is the best team in the Big Ten. And they have some tricky games coming up, right? They have Purdue, Michigan State, and then Michigan, but they get 2 of those opponents at home. It's Purdue, Michigan State at home, and then they travel to Ann Arbor to play in the Big House against their arch rival from that state up north. Right, Ohio State fans? Yeah, I'm an Ohio State fan if you're new to this channel. You can call me biased if you want, but I still think Ohio State, at the end of the day, when you look at the end of the year, when you look back at their resume, a loss to an Oregon team that probably could be justifiable. Oregon definitely looks like they're going to win the Pac-12 again this year. So definitely a justifiable loss. Should they have lost that game? Well, that's kind of hard to debate. The way they played that then, yes, they should have lost. The way they're playing now, probably shouldn't have lost that game. But hey, that's an argument for another day, right? What happened on the field happened. Ohio State picks up the loss, but now there's no room for error for this team. 1 loss, and that's it. They are done. But 1 team from the Big Ten is making it in, and it seems like Ohio State is the most likely right now, then maybe Michigan State, then Michigan, and then from there, it's a wide open door, right? And then chaos happens if that ends up happening. But for Ohio State, again, Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan to finish out the schedule. Going to be interesting to watch the Buckeyes down the stretch. I've already talked about Georgia, clear, easy number 1 beating Bama in the SC. Moving on now, Oklahoma at 3. Again, they were off this week. Chance for Oklahoma to fix some things that maybe aren't going well right now, right? Caleb Williams gives them a spark on offense, but who's going to lead that defense, right? Who is going to step up and be a defensive leader for this team, right? We know they have talent. Nick Bonito, Perion Winfrey, Pat Fields, among other players that I could mention on that team as well. Isaiah Thomas, right? There are lots of great players for Oklahoma on that defense. They just need to string together a complete performance on both sides of the ball. They're going to have a chance to do that against some really good teams. Baylor, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State coming up. So interesting to watch Oklahoma the rest of the way here. But as of right now, I think they make the college football playoff. And then Cincinnati. The reason I have Cincinnati 4 is, again, Oregon would be that team at number 4, but Oregon did not thoroughly impress me last week against Washington. Now, Cincinnati didn't either, and Oregon beat a Washington team that probably could beat Tulsa by 20 points when they're playing at their best, right? But still, no one proved that they are unequivocally better than anyone else besides, of course, the Georgia Bulldogs, but they've been doing that all season. Cincinnati is going to stay here at number 4 for the time being because I feel like someone's going to slip up somewhere, whether it be Oklahoma, who's on my screen, whether it be Oregon. Wake Forest already slipped up, so that's helped Cincinnati a little bit, but they also need Notre Dame to go undefeated. Notre Dame right now sitting at number 9 in the playoff rankings, and you'll see where I have Notre Dame in my New Year's Six Bowl in a minute, but they have a great shot to go 11-1 throughout the rest of the year, does Notre Dame, and that really helps Cincinnati. If that's Notre Dame's only loss, that looks absolutely fantastic. Maybe Notre Dame gets up to, I don't know, say as high as number 5 or 6. You can't put Cincinnati behind them because they beat them, especially Cincinnati is still undefeated. So I think that helps Cincinnati a lot. Why I have them here at number 4, because when you look at a team like Oregon, yes, they have the best win in the nation right now against a team like Ohio State, but they also have the worst loss out of anyone in the top 10. Look, they lost to a mediocre Stanford team that probably isn't going to make a bowl game this year, and that's going to matter at the end of the year. I know head-to-head has mattered this year, except for Michigan State. I still don't get it. I don't. If you're going to pick a thing and be consistent with it, and the thing they picked was head-to-head, and then they weren't consistent with it. Welcome to the playoff committee. What else is new? Anyways, mini rant over. This is my playoff field as of right now. It is unchanged from last week. But what is changed from last week are my New Year's Six bowl game predictions. So I have Notre Dame still in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, but a new ACC team has joined the party, and that's NC State. Yes, with Wake Forest picking up the loss last week. Going back, again, I was in Lincoln for most of that game, but watching highlights of that game, watching a rerun, which I just did earlier today, actually. Yeah, Wake Forest was controlling the game at parts, but then they kind of let North Carolina back in. And it is really on the defense of Wake Forest to start playing better because they have not played well. They've played well at times this season. Look at that Duke game. They've played well at times, but they have not strung together a complete performance in my mind. NC State and Wake Forest played this week. Gives you a chance to see kind of where I'm leaning in that game. Again, my official prediction comes out tomorrow. But this gives you a general idea of where I'm leaning in that game. So North Carolina State right now in the New Year's Six as the winner of the ACC. If you want to put Pitt in here, go ahead. If you want to keep Wake Forest in here, go ahead. Because honestly, I have no idea who's winning the ACC this year. And honestly, I don't think anyone does. People are going to say Pittsburgh, NC State, Wake Forest. Those are the 3 teams that are in contention for it right now. We'll see what happens later down the stretch, right? And for Notre Dame, again, that only loss is to Cincinnati, a team I have in the playoffs. They're absolutely a team that needs to be in a New Year's Six bowl game spot. So there you go. North Carolina in a New Year's Six bowl. We'll see what happens with the Irish later down the stretch, but shouldn't lose another game, right? Their offensive line is starting to get better. Their quarterback play has been pretty solid as well. And Kyron Williams started to get going last week against Navy, right? Finally, I know this late in the season, Notre Dame shouldn't lose a game from this point on. We'll see what happens with the Irish later. Moving on now, there's another change in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. Michigan and Ole Miss here, right? So for Michigan, you've shown vulnerabilities at times, but overall, this is still a very good football team. They've definitely saved Jim Harbaugh's job. That's a little, wipe the sweat off the brow there if you are a Michigan fan, but you still got some tricky games left. Penn State is coming up this week, and Penn State, while they're not going to make the Big Ten championship game, they're not going to make a New Year's Six bowl, not going to make the playoffs, they can still make someone's life hell. And they weren't able to do it to Ohio State, who's already beat Penn State, but Penn State can still do it to Michigan or Michigan State. So Michigan has got to watch out for those pesky Nittany Lions. They get to play them in Happy Valley. That's going to be an incredible, incredible game to watch. We'll see what happens there in that one. But as of right now, and at the end of the season, I project that Michigan will be in a New Year's Six bowl game. And Ole Miss, I also project will be in the New Year's Six bowl game. Now, they play Texas A&M this week. Again, that gives you an idea of where I'm leaning for this game. But for Ole Miss, I think they have the best player in America in Matt Corral. I know in the offseason, I wasn't super high on him. I thought he was a great quarterback, great talent, but I wanted to see him cut back those interceptions and he'd be a top 5, maybe even top 3 quarterback in the nation. And he's done exactly that. I think he's the best player in the nation. I think he should win the Heisman. Will it happen? Maybe. We'll see. I think it definitely should happen, but still some interesting games for Ole Miss left on the schedule, including this one here against Texas A&M coming up this week. Again, that gives you an idea of where I'm leaning in that game. But I think once it's all said and done, at the end of the year, you will see Ole Miss in the New Year's Six bowl game as of right now. And I think they're going to be playing Michigan in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl in Arizona. Moving on to the other bowl games, there are no changes. So I'm going to go through them pretty quickly here. The Rose Bowl, Oregon and Michigan State, same as last week. I know Michigan State just lost to Purdue, but this is still a really good football team led by Kenneth Walker. Peyton Thorne has played well at times this year as well. Still, again, some very good, talented players on this roster for Oregon. I have them just barely missing the playoffs. So as a consolation prize, you get the Rose Bowl. Not a bad consolation prize at all. Oregon, again, starting to get back to form as the team that beat Ohio State in week 2. Anthony Brown did not have a great day last week. And Michigan State, again, did not have a great day either, losing that game. Oregon, again, probably has the worst loss out of anyone in the top 10. Losing that game to Stanford really does hit hard. But for Oregon, I don't think the Rose Bowl is a bad consolation prize at all. And for Michigan State, it's interesting, right? Because coming out of the Big Ten, are they going to be the second best team? Will it be Michigan? Will it be Ohio State? Maybe even possibly could be. Michigan State can still make the Big Ten championship game. Michigan can too. It's just going to be a little hard for them. They're going to need Michigan State to drop another game, which would be to Ohio State most likely. And then they would need to beat Ohio State, talking about Michigan. But Michigan State still has Ohio State in front of them, still has Penn State in front of them. Not an easy road for Michigan State left at all. But at the end of the day, I think these two teams will meet in the Rose Bowl game. And then in the Sugar Bowl, Alabama and Oklahoma State. Alabama looked vulnerable against LSU. They also are a vulnerable team on the road. They play Auburn on the road at the end of the year. So Auburn can be world beaters for the Crimson Tide again. Bryce Young is showing some young struggles. And while Jamison Williams and John Mechie are playing out of their absolute minds, this is still a young, very much so inexperienced team that is playing vulnerable right now. They miss the playoffs, right? I think Georgia has a very, very grand chance to beat Alabama. Now, Georgia hasn't faced a team that can score yet. Alabama, we know, can score. So if that matchup happens, it'll be interesting. But Bama still has to focus on the regular season. They are not out of the woods yet. They can still not make the SEC championship game if they lose to Auburn and A&M wins out. But I think at the end of the day, they do make the SEC championship game, but they lose. Alabama's here in the Sugar Bowl. And then Oklahoma State, I think, are going to be your runners-up in the Big 12. And you need a Big 12 representative here in the Sugar Bowl. And with Oklahoma being in the playoffs, Oklahoma State, your runners-up, you're going to be finishing in the Sugar Bowl. This team has led by their defense all season. They're starting to get better offensively. Hey, Spencer Sanders has looked pretty good as of late, right? But all in all, I do think that Oklahoma State going to be here at the end of the day in the Sugar Bowl. Probably gonna have 3 losses, playing Oklahoma twice. Again, I have Oklahoma in the playoffs, so maybe Oklahoma does lose one of those games. But again, end of the day, Oklahoma Big 12 champs, and then Oklahoma State will be here in the Sugar Bowl. Still some interesting games for the Cowboys left on the schedule, including November 27th, Bedlam. The game every Cowboy fan is circling. The game every Sooner fan is circling. The date a lot of people around the nation are circling. That day is going to be a lot of fun. But we're 3 weeks away from that date. And while this was my playoff predictions before, I should say with 4 weeks to go, still a lot that needs to be played out here throughout this college football season. November is going to be an exciting month. But as of right now, I think this is your playoff field. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. As always, like, comment, subscribe, help support the channel if you'd really like to. I know it definitely means a lot to me. But as always, remember to play hard, tailgate harder. Tomorrow, I'm going to be predicting my top 10 games of week 11. So I'll see all you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.